Launch control, this is Houston. We are go for launch.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
It's ChrisXradio.
ChrisXradio.
What we need right now is a clear message to the people of this country. This message must be read in every newspaper, heard on every radio, seen on every television. This message must resound throughout the entire interlink.
And now, your host.
I believe this is going to be our finest hour.
Chris X.
Maybe a little confused today. Just maybe. I'm not sure what day it is, okay? Is it Manic Monday? No, it was yesterday. So it's Tuesday. So let me change my notes here. Hold on, let me go change this. I had it down as Manic Monday, but it's not. It's Taco Tuesday a day earlier because, well, we had a holiday. Yesterday was a Memorial Day. So we're doing our Monday show on Tuesday. Is that how this works, Gary? Is that where we're at again? I think so. I think it's where we're at. So we have our Monday show here on Taco Tuesday. So, okay. Boy, I'm going to be confused all week long on this one. So I'm going to confuse everybody else. Good afternoon and welcome to the Monday show on Tuesday here on ChrisXradio. We like to do our Monday show a day late and our Friday show a day early. So we don't know what day it is, but we do know that it's Tuesday, May 27th. Oh, and I got some daylight savings news for you as well. Oh, yeah. We'll get to that coming up, but we'll see if the governor signs it. But it is our Taco Tuesday edition of the program. I think it was the day before. Yeah, day before, maybe 2 days ago. I don't know. This was the quickest weekend I've had off in a long time. And what I mean by that was I was, of course, Friday, the Amigos were on. And then so I didn't do a show. And then Saturday and Sunday. And then we had Monday. So I was off. And then here we are on Taco Tuesday. And I'm thinking it's Monday. So we're going to do our Monday show on Tuesday. For those of you who, I hope you guys had a wonderful, safe, fun Memorial Day. We remember what it's for. It's so funny because I'll see, I guess, you want to call them the keyboard warriors, and they go on social media and they start dragging everybody for having a good time on Memorial Day. And it's like, guys, that is exactly what they served for. I know. A lot of people have forgotten what it was about, but we shouldn't. We should remember this is what they served to keep intact for everyone else. So I hope you had a happy and a safe Memorial Day. And I know a lot of people did some grilling and some cooking outdoors. And I ended up going and getting a burger, which it's kind of disappointed. Went to Hop Dottie. I hadn't been there in a long time. And it was the whole setup is weird. You go in, you stand in line, you pay, and then they ask for a tip, which I didn't give one. And then, of course, you was going to leave cash later. But they asked for the tip up front. And then I'm like, okay, are we going to get anyway? So I went and had a Hop Dottie burger. It wasn't a very big burger, by the way. They were a little small on the smaller side, so it wasn't great. So, but as far as that though, I did go have a bunch of other food and ate of Olive Garden. That was good. You know what? For some reason, I was on a dessert kick this weekend. So we went and had, like I said, went to Olive Garden, had their, chocolate mousse pie or whatever. Oh my, it's like a chocolate / with a little bit of vanilla cheesecake. It was so good. Went to Chili's and had, there's enough to go split like, the sampler, not sampler, what's it called? The trio thing, whatever that is. That's enough for two people to split and then get dessert. And it's funny, you get a meal, 2 drinks, and a dessert, $30. Went to one place, and it was over $40. I was like, wait, what, huh? Yeah. Anyway, so it was a good weekend. I had a good time. I spent a lot of time just kind of taking it easy and doing some things around the house, taking care of some of that stuff. I had to go spray off my coils. If you don't know what that is, you got to do that to your air conditioner every now and then. They say it helps. So did that. Also, I did watch some TV, something I generally don't watch a whole lot of. Thanks to a recommendation from one Jimmy X, I watched Ren Fair over the weekend. Ooh, that was interesting. It was only 3 episodes. It was an HBO docuseries or whatever. So I watched that over the weekend. That is a weird show. It's about the Texas Renaissance Festival, the largest Renaissance festival in the world, and the guy who ran it, George Kumal or whatever, who just passed away. He just died. And this was a few years ago, 2 or 3 years ago, and they showed how they were doing it, and it was Doug's, is it Doug? No, Jeff. Jeff something was the manager guy, and he fires him, and then he brings him back as the entertainment director. The lady he brought in that was a co-manager for a while worked with him, and then she took over. The guy, King George was his name. That's what he called. He's the guy who created the Texas Renaissance Festival, and he got the idea in San Francisco, which is weird enough. But he brought it to Texas, Houston area, and then they started expanding. And this guy, very smart guy, I might add, seemed to be very intelligent, but also a total weirdo. I worked for somebody like this guy. He calls himself King George, and he acts like a king. In many ways, he thinks he's a king. And watching the way he treated some of his employees, if you kiss the ring, you get treated pretty well. If you don't kiss the ring, oh man, he's miserable. Well, anyway, apparently there was one guy that worked there that comes from a wealthy family or whatever, and he would get the money and try to buy the Renaissance Fair or the festival from the guy, King George, so he could go retire. He kept saying he was selling it so he could retire. And there's 6 or 7 times, I don't even know how many times he tried to sell it. They went through with this guy at least 3 or 4 times, and every time at the last minute, King George would determine he didn't like the closing costs or whatever and would pull the plug on it. I felt bad kind of for the guy, but the guy who was trying to buy it was a little odd too. But it's if you get a chance, you want to watch it, it's worth watching. It was uncomfortable for me to watch many times because I've worked for somebody like that. So when you've worked for somebody like that, you understand it's like, okay, that is miserable for the people that work for him. But it takes a certain personality to work for people like that. So, but he lives on property. I think it's like 890 acres, and it's a bizarre thing. And the guy's he was real intense when it comes to his business on the Renaissance Festival. The way everybody had to wear hats, and he was certain things, he would stay right on it. And it's just kind of funny, I get it. You got to be as close as you can get to the old Renaissance period if you want to, make it work. But then you got people walking around with cell phones and, their little radios that are in their ear and that kind of stuff. And it's funny because I've been to the Renaissance Festival in the last few years. I've seen all the people that were involved, including King George. Didn't know who he was. But I coach, like I said, saw the others, the way that the actors that perform, a lot of people. It is I think it's either a $40 or a $60 million business. It is unbelievable. I didn't realize he created the town of Todd Mission, Texas, which is where the Renaissance Festival is, and was the mayor of Todd Mission, Texas. So he was the mayor, he was the king of the Renaissance Festival, he's the creator, he was the founder, and he was a real weird dude, lived in a sort of sprawling estate I guess it was on the ground somewhere there, but it was just kind of bizarre. And it had a big lake, and he would go out, and he was like half artist, half businessman, did a lot of reading. I've known people like that. And just those who do not follow kind of like he is, the guy totally didn't get it. And when Jimmy talked about, the guy would go to the Olive Garden. He was on, I don't know, like 15 different sugar daddy websites or whatever where they're trying to get sugar babies. He was claiming, I'm looking to find, a company. I want, a woman to be with me. But the guy had complete trust issues. He didn't. But then again, also, he was bringing out these young women. I mean, young, 20-something. And he's 80-something years old. He passed away just a few weeks ago, maybe 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, at 87. This will be, I think, the 51st or the 52nd year of the Renaissance Festival. So it'll be interesting to see if it continues. There was a lot going on, too. It was another sale was happening. They were trying to go through with it. and then he died. But he had just tried to pull the plug on it, I guess, once again, which is typical for him. So that was kind of bizarre. And then he died, and they, I guess they're in his home, and they haven't said, whether it was natural cause. When you're 87, it's possible natural causes. But anyways, bizarre. I watched it. So if Jimmy X, if you're listening, call in later. We'll talk about it. It was bizarre, and he's a bizarre dude. I guess you kind of have to be. I don't know. It was, and in many ways, and the people that work for him, some of them were a little bizarre too. But just watching the way this dude operated, like I said, I worked for a guy like that. I didn't enjoy it, not at all. I don't like kissing the ring. Never have. And don't like people that, he would fire them and not give them a chance to defend themselves. In fact, at one point, he was attacking the lady that worked for him. He had put her on the real estate thing. She was the manager or whatever now. And he had her working on full-time, working on the real estate stuff. And then when it was done, as the season was about to open, he asked her, well, where's all this and this? She's like, well, I was working on your real estate because you told me to. He was like, don't give me that. And just attacked her for doing what he told her to do. And then eventually he fired her. So that's the kind of way those people operate, which is very bizarre. And he was a bizarre dude looking for a sugar baby. I don't know if he ever found one. I have no idea. He had no living relatives that I know of. So I don't know what's going to happen with the Renaissance Festival. I guess we'll see. But there's a little Hollywood in there, which I was, concerned about. But it was an interesting thing. And thanks to Jimmy X for telling me to watch that, because I'd mentioned that the guy George Kamal or whatever his name is, can never remember what the guy's last name is. But anyway, he's King George. And that's all you need, King George of the Renaissance Festival. He was. That's over. Okay, so what I actually got, the other thing, did you see Emmanuel Macron's husband laid a smackdown on him as he was getting off the plane? The video is absolutely hilarious. Her putting her hand in his face and turning his head, and the look of surprise on his face as he realizes he's on camera. And then, he came out and tried to do a little damage control, but it's absolutely hilarious. So I thought that was kind of funny. And then we had some serious storms blew through the area last night. I think parts of Kingwood may still be without power. So there's a lot of areas in town that were without power from those storms. It was weird. In the afternoon, my power went off. It was just sprinkling, and my power goes off. But when it comes to those storms, and my power flashed a couple times, but I never lost it. Thank God I'm not complaining one bit, because, man, there was a time in this neighborhood when the power would go out every time it would sprinkle, and I hope it doesn't do that again. All right, so for the first time in its 29-year polling history, Rasmussen shows that 50% of the country believes America is on the right track, compared to 45% who say we're on the wrong track. We'll get into that. That's pretty interesting. So for the first time in history, we got that. Clearly, people believe that Donald Trump is far more competent. The only people that don't believe that Donald Trump will actually be a president instead of that guy who wasn't a president for the last 4 years, who tried to pretend to be president, but he was too busy napping and being lost all the time and falling down and upstairs and whatever. So they're showing consumer confidence. Once the big, beautiful bill finally gets worked out and passes, I think people are going to have a whole lot more confidence. And they're still fighting over it, which is good, because now everything they're fighting over right now is making it better. NPR and PBS stations are now suing Donald Trump for cutting their federal funding. For some reason, they believe they have a right to our tax dollars, which I'm like, what? Why do you want our tax dollars? Why do they get our tax dollars? If they weren't just left-wing propaganda, that would be different, but they are. We'll dig into that. Also, this is something that is interesting. Permanent daylight savings time, Texas time, bill heads to Governor Abbott's desk. That's right. A bill ending the biannual clock changes is heading to the governor's desk to be signed. Legislation establishing daylight saving time year-round in Texas has been given federal authorization, ending the biannual clock changes. It's on its way to the governor's desk after passing the Texas Senate, and it will be signed. I'm sure El Senador, Mr. Betancourt, will be talking about this. He was the one who laid out HB 1393, saying it's time for Texas time. That's one thing I love about El Senador. Sure, he laughs like Krusty the Clown, but, man, he gets a lot done. over in the Texas House when sometimes not a lot's getting done. There's a lot of other things, too. The Jocelyn Nungery bill has been punted until tomorrow. We'll see. By the way, today is also the last day for the Texas House to take up bills, and the current session ends on June 2nd. They've actually done a lot more than people expected, but we shall see what gets through and what falls through the cracks over the coming days. And also, finally, we can talk about this. I don't even know if we will. 60 Minutes anchor Scott Pelley here, is facing widespread ridicule for a commencement address last week at Wake Forest where it's being described as self-important and unhinged. He went nuts, just going crazy on Donald Trump, blaming him for everything. It's the end of the world, while ignoring the fact that everything that he was saying Trump is doing was done under the Biden administration. But Scott Pelley is I don't know, 5th, 6th tier anchor at 60 Minutes, which, by the way, he was talking about fake news or whatever, this morning our sacred rule of law is under attack, freedom of speech is under attack. They're the dirtbags that were editing tapes from Kamala Harris. They're the dirtbags that lied about Hunter Biden's laptop. They are leftist shills. That is all they are. And now they're attacking Trump. And the funny thing is, he's this old guy going and giving a commencement address at Wake Forest. First of all, it tells you what you need to know about Wake Forest, is for some reason they thought this guy would be a good guest to give the commencement address. But I guarantee you half the people in the audience at least were like, who the hell is this guy? What is he even going on? All right, we're way over. Let's go ahead and take a break. If you want to join us, you want to weigh in on any or all of this, just relax. You can call us. 281-558-KSEV. 281-558-5738. That is our call-in number. I don't know if the phone issues are worked out from last week. We'll find out here shortly when we come back and start taking some calls. Looks like we got Tierre out in Jersey Village on the line, so we'll take that. We'll take Tierre and then get your calls after him at 281-558-KSEV. 281-558-5738.
ChrisXradio.
For many years, the Pine Box has been helping families gain insight into the often confusing and extremely expensive task of arranging a loved one's funeral. I have worked with Pine Box in the death of 2 family members because I know I can trust Chip Beresford at the Pine Box, he's the owner, to be sure that he walks me through that process and that I am prepared for the funeral and that I get the quality I seek without breaking the budget. Because it's a very difficult thing. No one wants to feel like a cheapskate handling a funeral of a loved one, but you also can't afford to go broke either. You know, funerals are statistically the 3rd largest expense in someone's life. The Pine Box sells the same caskets and funeral merchandise that is offered at funeral homes, but at a tremendous savings, and delivery is immediate and free within the Houston area. Visit their website, thepinebox.com, or call Chip directly at 1-888-PINE-BOX. That's 1-888-PINE-BOX. I trusted them, and you can. The Pine Box.
You know, where we go in life matters, and what we do matters, and we know that taking the wrong road won't produce the best outcomes. Hi, I'm Kathy with Baker Mortgage, and we want you to take the right path when it comes to your mortgage. You know, we live in a world of information overload, but always consider the source. And these are not generally going to be from your big bank or a random offer that comes across your screen. Remember, you're always going to get a better deal on one that you go looking for than one that comes looking for you. You need to deal with somebody who gives a you-know-what, whether or not you're happy in the end. At Baker Mortgage, we do it right. We haven't been around for 68 years because we're lucky. We don't sell CDs, insurance, or anything else. We just provide a great mortgage experience. Isn't that what you're looking for? Call us at Baker Mortgage. I promise you'll be glad you did. We're at 281-313-MOVE or go directly to bakermortgage.com.
Equal housing lender. License number 263213.
Hi, this is Michael Miller. Join me this weekend for the Backyard Bay radio program presented by Miller Pools and Texan Pools, now at our new time every Saturday morning at 9 a.m. And what we do here on the Backyard Bay radio program is talk about your backyard. And this time of year, wow, It's so hard not to just spend all your time out in the Backyard Bay. And I know sometimes you have questions. That's why we do the Backyard Bay radio program, to get you good, solid answers to any kind of questions that you may have concerning your swimming pools. Or I'm looking to build a new swimming pool.
Just have a backyard party.
Join me this weekend for the Backyard Bay radio program, now at our new time, every Saturday morning at 9 a.m., right here on AM 700 KSEV, The Voice.
Hi, I'm Don Valentine with John Moore Home Services. Like anything mechanical, your AC and heating system needs to be serviced, or it will start breaking down. And the neat thing is that fall weather allows us to perform both an AC and furnace check at the same time. We save time and you save money. Call now for John Moore's 2-for-1 tune-up sale. Call 713-730-2525.
And now, back to Chris X Radio. Chris X Radio on the Voice of Texas.
Can't go wrong with a little old school Pearl Jam. It is kind of funny, though, because Eddie Vedder's like the only lead singer that's still alive from the Pearl Jam, Soundgarden, Stone Temple Pilots, and so on, Nirvana, all these bands or whatever. And he's such a lefty moron. And but you know what? Whatever. I don't care. He can be as lefty as he wants. I don't listen to Pearl Jam for advice regarding politics. I generally gonna go with somebody else. I'm sorry, it's just me. All right, welcome back to Chris X Radio. I'm the aforementioned X-Man, along with Mr. Harry Behemoth. That's right, it's actually Gary. Gary, the Harry Behemoth. He has assumed control of the airwaves. He'll maintain control as best he can. He's a little under the weather today, so we give him credit for coming in, first of all. So you guys be nice to him if you're calling in today at 281-558-KSEV, 281-558-5738. Let's go to the phone. Speak up with our good friend Tierre, hanging out in Jersey Village. Hey, Tierre, thanks so much for hanging on. Welcome to Chris X Radio.
Hey, what's going on, Chris?
Not too much. Hanging in there. Had a good Memorial Day weekend. How about you?
Same here. Got to see the parents, got to see the siblings, had some good times, some good laughs. But I wanted to there's a couple things, obviously, and I'm going to spit fire as quickly as I can, but try to make as much of an impact as possible. About a few weeks ago, and I was dying to get on the show, but I could not get there, and I reached probably that part of the day when you have, like, your last 4 or 5 calls lined up, and then it was like, for whatever reason, when I would call in, the number would go, it just wouldn't contact you guys at all. It would just be like, this number is disconnected. And
yeah, that was we were having the phone issues. When we had the phone, we're having phone issues, and when the lines were full, it was rolling over to nowhere, and it was doing that. It was saying the number's not in service, and it was confusing everybody. So I'm sorry you had to go through that, but you know what? I'm gonna let you spit fire because I always enjoy when you do it. So go for it, brother. I want to hear what you got to say.
So, old boy, it was the week that old boy jumped online, and he starts talking about how prices are so much higher now because Trump is in office. He was talking about him being in the real estate industry and so on and so forth. And I'm going to call BS on everything he said. I'm going to tell you why. See, I was around when the builders were having a hard time building houses. And that's also the other thing that caused inflation. We had this massive situation where we were no longer taking bricks. We were limiting the amount of lumber that was coming in from Canada. See, this is what people don't realize. I don't play a realtor on TV because I am actually a realtor, right? This was back when in Conroe it was blowing up. Everybody was moving to Houston. It was so bad during that period when Biden was in office because he was writing things that were hurting realtors. The other things that he actually went ahead and tried to create more laws and more regulations on realtors, claiming that we were trying to prohibit people from putting people in houses. It's just like you can control what somebody's credit score is. It's just like control what their financial status is. You can want it all you want. Do you have the necessary means to get into that house? And it's almost as if they were literally trying to say, well, we're going to give you guys X amount of money extra to get into the house. I'll never forget the day that this one lady came to my house, and she's literally trying to plead with me to vote for Kamala, but she had no clue who I was. She just saw a big black guy with an afro, and her eyes lit up as if it was Christmas. And I was just smiling like a shark inside the water right before the blood-infested target was sitting right there. I'm smiling looking at her, and she's blustering about how Kamala's going to give us $100,000. And I finally just sat there and I smiled at her and I said, where do you think the $100,000 is going to come from? She just says, it's going to come from taxing the rich. I said, what are the rich going to do whenever they receive those taxes? They're going to pay it? I said, you know how they're going to pay it? She said, how? I said, because if the rich own most of the businesses and they have supplies and goods, what they're going to do is offset those costs to the public at large. Yeah. And here's some inflation for you. They're saying it was like 6% or 9%. No, that inflation, because they weren't calculating the eggs or the price of groceries or anything, inflation was actually closer to 20%. Like, we were spending that much money. Now, I get it. Things aren't perfect. We want to go back. Listen, if it was up to me, I go back to 99, 2000. Otherwise, what one comedian said, that was back in the day when you could spend $5 to get 20 chicken McNuggets. A double McDouble. A McDouble, you get 2 McDoubles for $2.50. I wish we could go back to that era. Unfortunately, we are not in that era. In fact, my grandparents wish that they could go back to the era of when gasoline was 31 cents a gallon. We ain't going there. Point is that we got work to do. We really ran up a debt of $16 trillion, nearly $16 trillion underneath one administration. We're at about $36, $39 trillion. Now I'm hearing my friends complain, oh, my God, they're cutting costs, they're cutting this, they're cutting that. And I'm like, guys, this is what happens when you leave the presidency to, what was it, Weekend at Bernie's? That's what we were dealing with, except it was Biden. I love the fact, I don't think I didn't hear the joke of Humper Biden. I thought that was perfect. But going back on point, we have the auto pen scandal, and they even said it in the book. All he needed to do was appear 4 times a month, and they would handle the rest. What do you mean they would handle the rest? He's elected president. He's supposedly confident enough to do it himself. If he can't do it himself, get his VP in there. Oh, wait a minute. He didn't want to do that. Situation wouldn't have been. In fact, I honestly surmise it would have been worse. Let's be glad that we dodged a bullet. We thought we had Weekend at Bernie's. Listen, we had every blonde joke except she wasn't a blonde. She wasn't even black either. So I don't feel bad. I don't feel bad about saying that joke either. No, she's not black. Look it up, guys. Now let's go further with it. Now today, I love America for this. The reason why people are looking at Donald Trump and they're giving their highest rating of approval and one of the highest ratings of approval likely in the history of this country outside of George W. Bush after September 11th, the reason why is because we've seen evidence of him meaning when he says, I'm putting the needs of American people first. Now, whether the European Union, who just said, hold up, homie, hold up, we'll negotiate, because he told him, fine, I'm going to give you 50% tariff. And whoa. Slow down. We can talk. He said, all right, I'll stay the hand a little bit longer. They don't realize this is what pressure looks like. This is what it looks like when your country is finally put first. We're borrowing money, and I understand where the rest of the Republicans who are conservative, who are financially conservative, I understand your point. But, baby, it takes money to make money, okay? I'm going to gamble on anybody. I'm gonna gamble on 45, 47. I'm gonna gamble on 45, 47. The man is a self-made billionaire. He literally bleeds charisma, technique, negotiation, and personality. Guess what? He's not a dummy, okay? He's not even a donkey. Listen, the guy is doing a great job at knowing how to negotiate. He's getting the things we need done. Enough of this. We're financing the world. We're sponsoring condoms to parts of the world that don't even believe in sex outside of marriage because you get stoned for it. Listen, he's taking care of the United States first. We're finally getting somebody who says, let's take care of the veterans. Enough with this taking care of everybody's baby. Listen, we don't even have a baby daddy responsibility to the rest of these people out here. Okay? I would understand if the United States went in there and impregnated other parts of the world. That's not our problem. That's not our child. Okay? Let's stop trying to pretend like Harold and Betty, who have been married for 20 years, will finally have a baby, right? But the baby looks like me. No, we're going to stop that right now. That's not Harold's third-generation Italian father's DNA that's popping up. That baby looked like me, and it looked like his mama. Nah, we ain't doing that. We ain't doing that. We got to fix our house. Enough of this. My house is on fire, so I'm going to clear across town to put out somebody else's fire. Enough of that. We got enough fires of our own. That's why the American people chose him, and that's why they're satisfied. And I guarantee you this. He's going to be the greatest president of modern America. I guarantee it.
Tier, first of all, I got to take a break because we're way over. But, man, that's one of those times where there's really not much I can add. There are a lot of people that feel exactly the same way that you do. And then on the other side of the spectrum, there are people that make up lies and make up things and do whatever they can, no matter. The perfect example is the same people who are telling us that Trump is somehow trying to, enrich his friends and his billionaires when he's telling us exactly what he's doing are the same people that couldn't see Joe Biden was an inept buffoon who could barely walk and barely function. So there's that aspect of it.
TDS is real. TDS is real.
It is 100%. It is absolutely 100%. All right, let's go ahead and take a break. Then we'll come back and comment on some of the fire that Tier just spit because he was spitting fire. And he's right. Trump came in and said, listen, the free ride is over. It is time for us to start doing something. And everybody was like, wait, I thought I got to stay home forever because of COVID. I thought I had to go to work because of COVID. And then the government was going to give us money. And then they're the same people that freaked out and lost their minds over anyone attempting to look at fraud. You can't look at fraud. What are you doing? And then, as you pointed out, there's some Republicans out there, listen, you're spending too much money. Okay, I agree. Let's work towards doing. Well, you're not doing enough. Once again, this is a big ship. Takes a long time to turn around. You can't turn around in an instant. Well, let me rephrase it. Very often. He did it pretty well on the border. And, boy, TDS drives people nuts. All right, thanks for the call, Tier. Always good to hear from you. 281-558-KSEV, 281-558-5738. We'll be right back.
You're listening to Chris X Radio, AM 700, KSEV.
Dan Patrick for my friend Louis Flory and Ability Tree Experts.
Spring is here and summer just around the corner, which means it's time to deep root fertilize your trees in addition to spraying for insects and disease. Let Ability Trees help maintain their value and repair all damage. Fed and pruned tree will be less susceptible to wind damage and uprooting. Caring for the beautiful and valuable trees on your property that you can't replace should be done by experts. And the experts I use, it's very clear. It's Ability Tree Experts and Louis Flory.
My friend for over 40 years.
Gosh, this guy is the pro when it comes to taking care of trees. Pruning is important for the health of your trees. And pruning limits resistance to spring storms and allows the sun and fresh air into the canopy. Trees can be in distress several months without showing any signs. So don't wait to protect your investment at 281-441-4179, 281-441-4179, or visit their website at abilitytrees.com. Right now, Ability Trees is giving a deep root feeding with every tree pruned. Ability Trees, Houston's leading tree care professional.
Be a Planner show host Nathan Ross wants to remind you, please consider all the syndication terms of your private real estate partnership. By understanding the syndication math, Nathan can help you assess the benefits of ownership. Visit beaplanner.com or tune in each Friday mornings at 11 and Sunday at 7 a.m. for the Be a Planner show with Nathan Ross CPA on KSEV.
Let's be honest, no one ever thinks about their garage until it stops working. Don't wait until a simple garage door repair becomes a major problem. If your garage is noisy or if it struggles to open, your garage door is in need of repairs. Recommended all over Houston, Garage Door Doctor is your trusted partner for all your garage door needs. Let the experts at Garage Door Doctor tune up your garage door and keep it running for a lifetime. Schedule an appointment today at garagedoordoctor.biz or call today.
This is Kevin O'Hara with O'Hara & Company Real Estate. The country and the world are changing for the good. If you're watching the mainstream media, that's not the message you're getting. They've been brainwashing you for years. Dig into the real news and wake up. You were born free and freedom was given to you by God. The word government is derived from the Greek words meaning to steer or rudder. That should tell you something. God put us here to love one another no matter what race, religion, or ethnic group. And I'll admit sometimes I have a problem doing this, but I'm working on it. If you need a real estate company, call O'Hara & Company Real Estate at 281-373-3393 or look us up on the web at o'harare.com. Also, if you're looking for a home builder, remodeling, patio cover, any type of construction projects, give O'Hara Homes a call at 281-373-3393. And here's my grandson.
This is Katie Martinez. God bless America and God bless Texas. One more thing. God bless my pawpaw.
Fake news hates us. Fake news hates us. ChrisXradio. ChrisXradio.
You know, when Tierra spits that kind of fire, I mean, it's almost impossible to go back and address, heck, any of it. But definitely not all of it. He was... By the way, during the break, I ran it through the lie detector test. No lies detected. What about that? Oh, I know there's some lefties that get so mad. Oh, they get angry when Tierra calls in. How dare you be a black man and have those opinions? It is funny how the lefties get when you don't stay in line. That goes for black people. It goes for women. It goes for minorities. It goes for everybody. How dare you? They've given up on white men. Oh, they haven't. They've got a new plan to spend $25 million to figure out how to talk to white men, which is getting ultimately just ridiculed online. You have to figure out how to talk. Maybe that's your problem right there. But, you know, whatever. Let them keep doing what they're doing. You know what? It's their journey, okay? Now, welcome back to the program. If you want to join us, 281-558-KSEV, 281-558-5738. I'm Chris X, of course, along with Mr. Gary Bohemoth. He'll be taking your calls if you want to get in at 281-558-KSEV. All right, so Tierra was saying a lot. He talked about weekend at Biden's, and that was what we saw for the last 4 years. We saw this guy pretending to be president who was trying to pretend how much vim and how much vigor he has and how good shape. Hey, you want to go do a push-up contest? And then the guy tried to run up Air Force One and he fell down. And he tried to get up and he fell down again. And they fell down and he just stopped, had to dust off his pants and stand there for a minute. Why? Because he was an 80-year-old man who was trying to pretend to be something he never was. He was never healthy. He was never full of vim and never full of vigor. He was a dirtbag. He was a leftist. He is mean. He is a jerk. He is a corrupt politician who's been corrupt for over a half a century, and they installed him in the presidency so he could continue to be corrupt, and they did it under the guise of COVID and whatever else they used. So there's that aspect of it. But then it only got worse because then he started tripping over cables on stage on a regular basis. He never knew which side of the stage to go to get off. Every time he would talk, anyway, the guy would get lost. There was clearly some cognitive issues going on. And you fools on the left, you jerks like Scott Pelley, all of a sudden couldn't find anything. You were just, I'm blind. I got my sunglasses, my cane, and I see nothing. I know nothing. They couldn't see it. Somehow they were fooled by a cabal that was running our country in the White House, and now they're trying to get us to believe that. Okay, guess what? Biden also had cancer. I know he had some on his chest he had removed as well, but no, he's got prostate cancer, and it's already spread to the bone. And they're trying to convince us that he didn't just 6 months ago. What? And they weren't checking him for that when he was president. They hadn't checked him since 2014 or whatever. What? A guy, you're cutting cancer off of him and you're not checking him for prostate cancer? And he was having issues. We know they lied to us about everything because they had a vegetable in office. And now Donald Trump comes in, and as Tierra pointed out, listen, we would love to have prices. When he talked about the double cheeseburger or the nuggets for $5, oh my God, those were the days. I used to love to go to McDonald's and like, for $5, I can get 20 nuggets. This is awesome. It was good. And then prices rose every minute of the Biden administration. Inflation rose, and then it started coming down from its high, and they tried to convince us that he was reducing inflation that didn't exist before he came into office. So there's that. So there's all these other things. Everything that they've tried to convince us, that they're going to try to convince us, was all based on a lie. We can't secure the border. We just can't do it. Sorry, we have to open it up to allow 12, 13 million people. I'm sorry, we can't do it. And then at the end of the term, when he's going to run for re-election, all of a sudden they started securing the border. Well, why did you secure it now? Because they're the lying liars who lie, and they will continue to lie, and they'll put their chumps, their propaganda apparatus like Scott Pelley, up on stage to try to continue to convince people. Well, the problem is the media does not have the stronghold on information they once did. We now know that 60 Minutes has been lying to us for decades. Dan Rather was lying to us for decades. All the media is nothing but a bunch of propagandists. And occasionally they will filter out some truth. And what he talked about, we dodged a bullet twice. Well, Trump literally dodged a bullet, and boy, he got his ear. There's that aspect of it, but there's the other aspect of it that we had Joe Biden, this man who couldn't even function, and they were going to try to run him again for another 4 years. Listen, I don't want to sound terrible and negative and awful, but if Joe Biden survives another 2 years, it's going to be a miracle. I thought there was no way he was going to survive his entire term, but he did. That was a miracle in itself. But we now know they tried to lie and push him across the finish line so he could be diagnosed with prostate cancer, so then they can install Kamala for the next 4 years. So that's a double bullet that we dodged. Everything they did slowly but sure, and she's terrible. She's just as bad as him without the cognitive decline. She just never had any real cognitive capacity in the first place. She's one of the most unpopular politicians in the history of our country. It's that bad. It's that terrible. And now she's out giving speeches and whatever, probably giggling a lot. She's awful. I don't think she's going to run in the next election. I think she'll probably run for governor of California. Will probably get it. Who knows? But that's California. But anyway, I would like to address more of it, but I really probably ought to get back to what we're talking about. Like I said, there's a lot going on. This explains why people are so positive on Donald Trump. We saw Donald Trump's economy until they knocked him out with COVID. And now we know, guess what else happened today? The feds have pulled the COVID vaccine recommendations for healthy children and healthy pregnant women because we were lied to by the same people I've been talking about over and over and over again. And they were, quote, vaccinating people without a vaccine that don't need it. Yeah, that was happening. It's astonishing where we are, but that's where we are. So we're learning they've lied about all of that. Well, we saw what happened up until that point, until they all lied about it. Well, the economy was good. Donald Trump's a businessman. He's a smart one. And what he's doing with the tariffs is doing exactly what he said he was going to do. They're called reciprocal tariffs for a reason, most of them. And then what? I'll drop them if they drop theirs. Bam. It is a negotiating tactic that everybody told him he was wrong. You know how many times they have told us Donald Trump is wrong over the last 8 years? I can't even count how many times. And every single time they did it, they're the ones that end up being wrong. As Thierry said, and I agree, I'm at the point now where, listen, I'm going to trust him. He may not be perfect. I never expected him to be perfect, but I trust him to do what's best for America. There's a reason why he's America first and not the Democrat Party, which is America last. It is night and day. All right, let's take a quick break, and then we'll go to Lewis and Montgomery next. Lewis, hold on. We'll get to you on the other side. I'm a little over. 281-558-KSEV if you want to get in after Lewis. 281-558-5738. I'm Chris X. We'll be right back.
The revolution continues after this. Chris X Radio. Chris X Radio.
Plumbing emergencies never happen at a convenient time. Nix Plumbing offers free estimates and free second opinions. Call Nix Plumbing and Sewer Services, 713-868-9907, or visit us on the web, nixplumbing.com.
NPL 38548.
Listen to the Total Wealth Academy radio show Monday through Saturday and learn how to build a second stream of income with real estate and lead a more balanced life. Check TotalWealthAcademy.com. That's TotalWealthAcademy.com for showtimes. Thank you.
This report sponsored by Gallery Furniture. If made in America is important to you, come to Gallery Furniture. Buy it today, get it today. Gallery Furniture saves you money.
Did you buy your furniture from Gallery Furniture compared to this Memorial Day weekend? All you got was a backorder slip, a sky-high delivery fee, and 6-week wait? Throw it out. Bring that backorder slip to Gallery Furniture. Get your new furniture delivered free today. Delivered free with meter-beating price and deliver your furniture free today. And if you bought a mattress at Mattress Soft or another furniture retailer, and all they gave you was a promise and a high delivery fee, bring that receipt. Gallery Furniture, meter-beating price, deliver your new mattress free, and you'll sleep great tonight.
And now, back to Chris X Radio. Chris X Radio on the Voice of Texas.
I still can't get over how Loverboy now, the lead singer, was Mike Reno? It's got to be a fake name, but it's kind of a cool name. How he's a big fat guy. I mean, he's fat now, but he can still sing. You got David Lee Roth, who's 70, and he's in great shape. David Lee Roth has stayed in shape forever. That guy's looked good for 50, 60, 70 years. I don't even know. But he can't sing. David Lee, he just kind of talks his way through it, and it's not very good. But when it comes to Mike Reno, I think it's Mike Reno. When it comes to him up there, he looks almost like a beached whale. But dude, he can wail. He can sing. And that's just bizarre. Because I know these guys are old now, so I can understand putting on a little weight. So I was going to say Macron ought to put on a little weight, move up a division because his wife's smacking him around. I keep saying his husband. Have you guys seen those rumors? Man, there's some online rabbit holes you can go down. I don't know if his wife is a woman. I'm just saying, I don't know. I don't know that answer. It's too bizarre. And she's also like 30, 40 years older than him. It's just kind of a bizarre thing. Anyway, she was smacking him around on the airplane. But the video's hilarious. Just kind of shoved his face. And it's funny because she turns his face right towards where the camera's shooting. And he has that look on his face like, what do I do? It's funny as hell. All right, welcome back to Chris X Radio. 281-558-KSEV. If you want to join us, let's go ahead and go right back to the phones. Pick up with Luis in Montgomery. Luis, thanks for hanging on. Welcome to Chris X Radio.
Yeah, hey, Chris, how you doing?
I'm good. How are you today, Luis?
I'm doing great, man. I just wanted to say that previous caller hit the nail on the head, right? Trump's a self-made billionaire, and he's making some great picks for his cabinet team. I think the first one that comes to mind is Chris Wright with DOE. I mean, that Senate hearing they had recently, and he caught $37 billion of outgoing funds in the last 76 days of the previous administration, and I think that's what we need. We need people treating our tax dollars as if it's a business, watching over those funds and making sure those are going to places where we're going to get impact from them. So I think these are great things, and we're headed in the right path. It's a shame that the left-wing media just takes this stuff and spins it as we're trying to stop progress, and if anything, it's the opposite. You can't get anything done with all the fraud that's going on, and it hides the good stuff that is going on.
Well, I think you're right on. And yeah, he was right. And you're right. Any attempt to look into the fraud is met with utter hostility from the left. They don't want their fraud train being stopped at all, clearly. But watching the way they've treated the Secretary of State, Marco Rubio, look at him, the way they're going after him for how dare he enforce federal immigration laws the way they're supposed to be interpreted. How dare he do that? How dare he step in this is when he really became enemy numero uno, was when he stepped in and took over, the USAID, and started saying, listen, we have no business spending $128 million on things that I couldn't even tell you, and neither can they. They don't care because they're all grifting the money, and the media has just attacked him relentlessly. The Democrats attacked him. The way they turned on Elon Musk. No, you're absolutely right. Their response says everything because they're America last. They don't want anybody even checking on the fraud because they're all getting rich off of it. And that's a dangerous place to be as a country. And just like you said, I would prefer to have people that are looking at our tax dollars exactly as this administration is. Hey, this is the people's money. It's not yours, you dirtbags. Quit wasting it on stuff and quit stealing it. And if we could get more people like that, I think it would be even a better country. But you're absolutely right. The Democrats, the left, the media, the propaganda, all of them are going to go. They're going to fight it tooth and nail, and will never give up that battle because the last thing they can afford is us cutting off their gravy train, I guess.
That's right. Keep up the good work, Chris. Appreciate taking my call.
Absolutely. Thanks for the call, Luis. It's ridiculous watching what they do. And it's funny because then you got a guy like Trump who comes in and they treat him as the enemy. God, he's the enemy. And watching Scott Pelley, I'm not going to play Scott Pelley because I can't stand him. So I'm not going to play the audio that he was doing over the weekend as he was giving the commencement address to Wake Forest, but it should be called Woke Forest because they put this dirtbag up there, and literally every single thing that he is accusing this administration of was running amok in the last 4 years. Everything that he was saying. And they go crazy. So you've got all of these left-wing activist judges jumping in, stopping him from deporting known gang members, people that already have deportation orders, and they're stopping it. Okay. Oh, well, there's one guy who was an accident. He wasn't supposed to be deported. Yeah, he got to stay on one, but he was ordered deported on another. He wasn't supposed to go back to El Salvador because he was afraid he was going to get killed by a rival gang. Then they tried to convince us he wasn't in a gang. But he can't go back there because he's going to be killed by a rival gang. They talk out of both sides of their ass, and they do it always. They do not care about facts. Facts only get in their way. And they'll take whatever sort of preposterous scenario to come to the conclusion they want, and they make that the norm. And then they got the propaganda media out there doing the same thing. It was kind of like yesterday. You see Lena Hidalgo? Was it yesterday? Where she tweeted out, it's been 5 years since George Floyd on Memorial Day. They celebrate criminals and criminality. They celebrate illegals and illegality. That's what they celebrate. That is their constituency. I just wish the peripherals in this country, which they did in the last election, but I really wish they would in every election so we could rid ourselves of this scourge that is destroying our country. It's destroying the cities and the counties, anywhere Democrats are in charge, anywhere they're in charge. That's what they bring us. They bring us crime and corruption, and they know how to manipulate the system in order to get away with it. Only the really big dummies are the ones that tend to get caught and don't get away with it. But that's what they do, and then they weaponize it against the guy running against them. Oh, wow, that's interesting. The fact that we're learning this quickly how many lies were told about COVID and the last election, and not the last one, the one before, 2020 election, and people like Fauci, if you dared question them, you were vilified. You go back to the COVID years and look what was happening. You get the president of the United States going out saying, if you've been vaccinated, you won't get COVID. But if you haven't, it's going to be a summer of death and destruction. They lied. None of them knew what they were talking about. They either lied or were complete idiots. Regardless, the outcome is the same. They lied. They knew what they were doing. But you weren't allowed to question them. That's why I call them the dirt bags, because they are the dirt bags you think. You cannot despise these people enough. And then they weaponize their people to go, listen, they keep attacking people in MAGA hats. Listen, we don't attack your men wearing dresses, okay? Hour number 2 is up next.